what can be quite a dehumanising
So I am
process.
someone who is biologically a male, but I have changed my gender. I've got a certificate to prove it, and I'm now a trans woman. Where would I go to the toilet?
This is another absolutely humiliating U-turn by a top Labour politician. This is Bridget Phillipson, the Education Secretary, before and after the Supreme Court ruling. Take a look.
The men's toilet or the females or the women's toilets?
So I would, you don't police how people use toilets in that sense, but I would expect that if you were someone
Get ready
that
for this
had
word
gone
salad.
through that formal process of recognition, that you are, to all intents and purposes, for legal purposes, are regarded as being in a different gender, regardless of the sex into which you were born.
So
and
where do I go? Where do I go? The men's toilets or the women's toilets?
I would think that in those cases, people would be using female toilets. But
trans woman is out in public
This is
today
after.
and wants to use the toilet. Which toilet should they use?
That should be on the basis of biological sex. That would apply right across the board to all single-sex provision. But
Saying it as if it was not a U-turn, not apologising for her previous opinion and saying she was wrong, just saying it as if it's fact and that she has always thought that that is the case. But we have the receipts, ladies and gentlemen. We've got that video we just looked at. Someone on Twitter kindly went back and found this article from June 2024, so not all that long ago. Trans women with penises can use female toilets, says Shadow Education Secretary. Remarks sows fresh confusion over Labour's gender stance. Gosh, wasn't it confusing before the general election? Let's not forget that before the general election, the Labour Party, in their manifesto, they wanted to make self-ID, like getting a gender recognition certificate, they wanted to make it even easier for men to be able to claim that they are women and to use our toilets. Initially, you had to have it signed off by 2 different doctors, and it was quite a long process. But they wanted to basically fast track it, say you just need 1 doctor to sign you off, and then you're it. That's it. You're sorted. You've got your gender recognition certificate, and they wanted this 2-year cool-off period, right? And I showed you guys in a previous video. You guys can go back and watch it and find it if you want to. The video of the clips of what Keir Starmer was saying in the past when he was asked what a woman is. He said that he thinks it's wrong. He thinks it's wrong to say that only women have a cervix and things like that. And now he's completely changed his tune. But rather than having the humility to say, I said something different in the past, I was wrong, I put my hands up, they're just pretending like nothing has changed. And that is very clear that they're trying to pretend like nothing has changed by this tweet that has just been put out on one of the government Twitter accounts with a statement from Bridget Phillipson. Let's take a look at this. It says, "We have always supported the protection of single-sex spaces based on biological sex." Hang on. Were you in that interview that we just listened to? Was that you? Because you seemed very clear that you were happy for trans women to use the ladies' toilets. And I didn't hear any noise from the Labour Party over the past few years about how important it is that we protect single-sex spaces for women. It's only since this court ruling came out, and in fact, they didn't have the guts to say anything just after the court ruling came out. It's been over a week now since the court ruling. The court ruling came out last Wednesday. Keir Starmer waited until, I think, Tuesday? He waited until Tuesday to tell us that he supports the ruling and it brings the clarity he wants it to bring, yada, yada, yada. Not really strongly coming out in favour of it, but accepting it, right? That is the divot and delay that we saw. These guys have not always supported the protection of single-sex spaces. This is just blatant gaslighting from the Labour Party, trying to tell us that they have always supported this, when we all know, anyone who's got half a brain cell knows that this is not the case. They have completely flip-flopped and U-turned, right? I'm all for people changing their minds, right? But don't change your mind and then pretend that you never had a different opinion in the past. Be humble. Put your hands up and say, I thought differently in the past, but I've changed my mind now. I've seen more evidence about, you know, you can say, oh, I didn't think trans women would pose any danger to women in the past, but then we had more and more data come out about the number of sexual assaults that were happening in women's spaces by biological men, and I realised that it is important that we protect these spaces, so I've changed my mind. Why can't you say something like that? Rather than try and gaslight us and pretend that you were on this side all along. No one can trust a single word that comes out the mouth of a Labour politician's mouth because of stuff like this. The rest of her statement says this ruling brings clarity and confidence for women and service providers such as hospitals, refuges and sports clubs. Single-sex spaces are protected in law and will always be protected by this government. Interesting. So there we go. That's what Bridget Phillipson has said in her latest U-turn. Thank you very much for watching this video. Subscribe to Reason for more videos like this.